Hey everyone, welcome to the third round Chase Card coverage, back 9 from the 2017 Jonesboro Open. Big Dick Contenders commentary team. We got Big Germ here, joined by Chris Dickerson. On to hole 10, which is a really fun par 3. What makes this hole so difficult?
The woods on the left and right of the fairway make this hole difficult.
Not only do you have the woods on the left and right, you got a tunnel shot for sure. You also have a low ceiling to deal with, which makes the backhand anhyzer shot that much more difficult. I think most players at this distance who are throwing the backhand anhyzer probably would be going with a mid-range. However, it's really tough to get that distance with a mid-range with this ceiling here. So most players are going to be throwing some sort of fairway driver. Unless you're a lefty, in which case, try to throw a little bit of a flex shot. You don't want to throw a hyzer there all the way, because if you do and you get clean all the way, you're going to skip away from the basket because you're on a side hill green there. Not only that, D1 there.
It was. Speaking of that flex shot.
Yeah. The flex shot I feel like is the play just because it's going to land softer. It's not going to skip as much. But not only that, once you navigate the fairway properly, once you get to the green, you got an elevated basket. So they've really made this one tricky. And that is pretty much how you do it. Right down the middle. I'm not sure what he's throwing there, but he made it look really easy. And that's not where you want to be off the tee. That's a tricky approach from there. It didn't look like he had much in the low stuff. He looks like he had to go high. And Devan with a layup there, and James here just inside the circle. Oh, cash money. Solid stroke. Kept it high. Right into the pole. That's a great backhand anhyzer birdie. I mean, it's a great birdie for anyone, but that's a really tricky shot. It looked like he had some hesitancy there once it hit the basket.
Well, the disc turned straight up and down after it hit the chain, so
Yeah.
I was waiting for it to pop out the backside.
Yeah, and if that happens, then the great birdie there from Lewis. Once that happens, that's all downslope too. 'Cause that's rollaway city.
Mm-hmm.
And a routine tap in there. Devan looks like he's full of energy. That's a birdie I'm sure he's banking on. It's one for him to get one back on the course. But on to hole 11 here. New rule on hole 11. We call it the Simon rule. They ended up putting a mandatory, so you had to go down the middle now. This is for safety purposes and also for speed of play. So no big crazy anhyzer route today. Kept everyone honest going down the middle. Looks like James is going with his Thunderbird that he's comfortable with. And that's looking awesome. That's high, around the corner. Maybe a bit tight. I'm kind of surprised to see that it didn't make the corner there. But you really don't want to go too long in this one.
No, if you go too long, you have a kind of quirky upshot.
Yeah, and you really don't want to finish right either. And that kind of looks like what Lewis has done there. He's gone a little bit too far right, maybe a bit long. It's going to make that approach really challenging. It's going to be hard to get the disc to turn around the corner. And Devan's going with a big high turnover shot. And he comes up just short of the corner as well. D1?
Bowling Green D3.
Oh, okay. Is that the super overstable run?
It is, so it's pretty much a D1.
Yeah, yeah. So I was right.
Yep.
And that's right in the middle. That's going to give you a nice angle for a turnover or a flick. Knowing your flick, I'm imagining that's probably what you're going to be going with.
Have you seen this video before?
I have not. So Lewis actually came up short off the tee. Is that what happened?
No, he
tried to go back door.
Yes, he came up long off the tee, and he had the hyzer approach.
That's one I have not seen yet, but I could see that happening if you go too far off the tee. And just a little flick, nothing to it. 21 feet left for the birdie. And it looks like dude actually gave himself a pretty good angle. I thought he may have been a bit short. It's just camera tricks. And he's got a nice little deuce run himself. Oh yeah. That's in the 93% range right there.
I would have to agree with you there.
I'm just speaking personally from my own experience. And look at that sidearm from James Conrad.
Something you don't see a lot, but when he uses them, he's pretty good with them.
Oh, and almost cashing it from about 60. Lewis with a nice little nose-up run there to not leave himself a long comebacker. And the robot chicken, Chris Dickerson, right in the middle. I think I just stumbled across a good nickname for you.
I think you may have as well.
And a birdie there from James. That was so cool. The disc got that really awesome action skipping up the hill there. And when he throws a sidearm, it's not that rare to see him throw his whole body into it. You see, he threw that one and laid out, lying on the ground, putting his whole body into it. And three birdies traditionally. What were we going to say?
I was going to say James does that a lot. He commits to every shot and he puts everything he has into it.
Yeah, coming into hole 12 where you're throwing 100% off the tee, I'm sure we're going to see some lift off here when James throws.
Oh, we are.
Oh, yeah. That's one of my favorite things to see is hair bouncing, and then he follows through and both legs are in the air. There needs to be some better pictures. We need to get a camera person dedicated to James Conrad's card. Distance is such a huge part of this hole because if you can throw a soft approach into the green, it's going to be much more likely to sit. There it is! The hyzer flip turnover from Lewis Bitney is not patented, but the lift-off tee shot from James Conrad is.
Mm-hmm.
It's something he does that no one else does. You could see him from a mile away and be like, yeah, I know who that was.
You know exactly who it is.
Yep. And Devan just smoothing his across. He's got sneaky distance. He's not the tallest player. You don't think of someone his height as having a lot of power, but he can get it out there. Speaking of get it out there, I'd say you're throwing 550 feet pretty easily as well. Look at that. That's going to give you... Are you kidding me? Wow. You crushed that. What was that?
That was a new 400G D2. I was just playing for the hyzer flip to straight and maybe a little bit of fade at the end, but this little bit of wind kind of carried mine and Lewis's discs over to the right side.
Yeah, those are big. And Lewis is all the way down there jump putting uphill.
He got the skip off the top of the hill.
Wow.
Looking at about 80 feet.
That's incredible. That's a huge bonus. Be able to throw your approach up the hill, that's ideal. Oh my goodness, that is so perfect. Great shot from James. And 3 of you guys somehow made it to the right side of that tree. There was a bit of a headwind there, and tee shots were finishing right, but you can really get in a bad spot behind this tree because it's so wide. But making no trouble there, and just Lewis with a simple jump putt up the hill. That was incredible. You know, I don't think many players would say Lewis Bitney is the biggest power player, but I mean, that shot alone shows you he can get it out there too. And just tap in birdies on this hole from the whole card. James maybe had a little bit of work. Look at that. Lewis wants to get in the party too. Great star frame there. That's how you draw it up. Actually, I don't even think you draw it up that way. That's better than you draw it up.
It did work out better.
Yeah, certainly. And on to 13. This is, I mean, I use the word bonus birdie a lot, but this is pretty much as much of a bonus birdie as it gets. This hole is so hard to keep the height right, the angle right, the power right, all of it together to get inside the circle is just so tricky. James is going with his destroyer here that he's been throwing a bunch. And that's a bit wide, but it's the safe way to play this hole. You really don't want to hit anything early and leave yourself 250, 300 feet out. I think this is probably the hardest lefty hole in the course. There's really no way to avoid doing what he just did there. I mean, I don't know how you could even throw it better, to be honest with you. He could throw it a bit higher, I suppose, maybe a bit more stable so it flexes out, but that's going to happen more times than not.
I've played with a couple lefties that have taken the left gap.
Right. No, yeah, left. Correct.
Of course.
And that was a nice tee shot by you, and Lewis is trying to keep it tight, and that wind just pushed it right out of that line. I mean, looked great out of his hand and still never really had a chance to get all the way up to the pin. And James has to go with a patent pending stance. We mentioned patent pending yesterday. The history behind that is that Barry Schultz and Ken Klima were both doing the same thing with their back turned to the target. And they both were saying that they created the shot. However, they didn't have any proof on who invented it first, and so they called it patent pending. So that's the story behind that. And Lewis with a little bit of a run there. Chris has got the eye of the tiger here. Oh, no robot chicken here.
No, more the eye of the layup.
Well, 4 pars here is not bad. If you see a birdie on your card, somebody did something pretty awesome. All pars, we got 24 under from James, 23 from Chris, 17 from Lewis Bitney, and 15 from Devan Owens. Here we are, hole 14. One of the top 2 or 3 signature holes in the course, I'd say. What are you thinking about in this hole when you step up to it?
Just get over those hay bales. That's all I'm trying to do is get across, and wherever I land, try and scramble or just lay up from there.
So you're not thinking about running this basket here, are you?
If there were no wind, I would, but every day we've played it so far, there's been a little bit of a headwind.
Yeah, it's been tricky. This hole was not playing the same way that it played for us in practice rounds. A lot windier conditions. Gosh, and it really just doesn't look like it's windy out there, but there is a constant breeze that's really making you think about what you're going to do here. And lefty almost getting through there. That's going to be a layup from there. There's nothing from that spot right there. And off to a nice plane, but getting smacked down from the wind. Still pushes through. You're looking at a almost circle's edge putt. Did you think that you were going to have a look for your birdie there?
I thought there might be a little gap, but I wasn't counting on it.
Yeah, this green's pretty treacherous. You can be inside the circle in so many different spots and have zilch for a run. So not only that, it's elevated too. So there's a lot of different things that make this hole tricky. And Devan might have found a route to get aggressive, but that would have been a 10 out of 10 on the difficulty scale if he'd made that one. And as you see, James is close to circle's edge, Just really not even a chance, and he's got to go with the sidearm approach. Oh, man, that's brutal. You throw a shot like that off the tee, you navigate the wind, you get past the OB, get all the way in the circle from 520 feet, and then you got to throw a sidearm approach from 32 feet away.
It's not often that I throw a sidearm inside the circle.
Yeah, you don't have to do that very often, but this green calls for that maybe a bit more than other places. I kind of like to see a little bit more relief. I don't mind having a tree or two on the green to make you kind of keep you honest, force you to one side. But I do like the availability to be able to get creative. Oh, nice. Speaking of creative.
Yeah, if I had your height there, I wouldn't have any problem with it.
A little flamingo kick putt there. I like that. All threes, no damage there. Everyone avoided the hazard and got up and down for their threes. So on to 15 now. They're going to call this the second easiest hole in the course because they call 16 a par 5. If 16 were labeled properly as a par 4, that would make this the easiest hole in the course, and rightfully so. It's a must get.
It is a must get. You feel pretty bad whenever you do not get it.
The tricky part, I suppose, is that, and James really surprising me there, somehow gets into the circle. If that's a shot he's trying to go for, the skip shot, then he needs to teach me how to ninja skills like that, because that was not how you draw it up on paper.
I think right out of his hand he said get up or something along those lines.
Right. That's not what he was trying, and that's not what Devan wants either. The one thing that kind of makes this tricky is that you do have to throw a hyzer approach, and it is a side hill, sloping away from the basket. So if you do get it a little bit high like that,
see you later.
You're going to be down the hill, and you don't want anything outside 25 feet on this hole.
You don't.
Yeah, and just makes it more harder. I feel like the putts on holes like this that are must-gets, that 15-footer, that basket's a little bit smaller, it seems like, because if you miss it, you feel that much worse.
Mm-hmm.
And there was no layup there from Devan. He's going for that one. Does not want to surrender a stroke to the course. It's going to have to actually make a pretty good comeback putt for his birdie. And for his par. Oh, no. Oh. Those are the worst words in the sport. You're still out.
Yep. I didn't think that I would have 2 outside the circle putts on this hole, but almost 3.
Oh, my goodness. And a solid round so far. And Devan, he's going to have to make a putt for his 4.
Mm-hmm.
And he does make good from 23 feet. But that is not what you're looking to have happen on this course. James with his miracle birdie there. Taking what the course gives him and moving on. And Lewis a little bit more traditional. Hyzer inside the circle. Ooh! Nothing traditional about that putt. But it's in there. That's kind of what... I'm sure he gets a lot of those. That nose-up putt that he has,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of people's putt that hits the cage is going to drop. That nose-up keeps the bottom of the disc exposed, and he's going to get a lot of skips up into the basket.
Mm-hmm. It just slides off the rim.
So 2 birdies, 2 bogeys there. Even par for the card. And James is at 25 under making moves. 9 under through the round, through 15 holes. Off to a great start, especially considering he had a bogey on hole 2. He's really strung together a solid round since then. And here's another one of the... I'd say this is the signature... I'm going to call it a par 4. It is a par 5 on the course, so very eagleable. Really, you're just trying to throw just past that red and white, or the blue and white 500 marker. And that is not what you want to do. Anything right is in trouble.
And that was the 4 we were talking about on the ace video.
Oh, there's the ace for Simon. Oh, wow. The simultaneous. I was wondering why they were clapping so much for the bad tee shot. But the miss on this hole is anywhere long and left. There's gaps that you can go through over there. The one thing you do not want to do is fade off to the right.
You don't want to be on the right side, and you do not want to be behind the one tree in the fairway.
Oh, goodness. Is a little foreshadowing here?
Nah.
No. Can't imagine that you'd give a spoiler.
No, wouldn't do that.
So right up the middle, looking really good. Looks like it might be heading right behind a tree somewhere. No, out in the open.
Uh-huh.
Okay. So now you got a little straight shot, flip up, turn over a bit more than you maybe want, but... Oh, wow.
Super safe.
Yeah, I'd say that's super duper safe. You're going to have almost a tricky approach because you're so safe.
It was pretty tricky with that wind.
Yeah, coming downhill from there it can be tough, and Devan is behind that one tree. But he kicked down. He's going to have probably just under 300 feet to get across the water and have a good spot for his quote-unquote birdie 4.
Mm-hmm.
And Lewis is in an ideal position just to throw a soft hyzer. Coming in nicely. And, well, maybe faded out a bit more than he'd like. He's probably sitting around somewhere near 70 feet from the pin. And here's James's putter approach. He didn't really have a good angle, it looks. Not a straight shot for the pin. He's just playing safe, not trying to take any big numbers here. And Devan was really close to going out of bounds on the island there. Just throwing his sidearm up there. He's going to have a look from about just under 40 feet for his birdie 4. It was kind of like a half run, kind of conservative, trying to keep the round going.
Yeah.
Making that look pretty easy. It's kind of hard to tell how much slope you have going down towards the edge there.
Mm-hmm.
There's no that wall there isn't out of bounds. If he had crested over that, you'd still have about 30, maybe 25 feet to the water's edge. But that kind of plays tricks on your mind, I feel like, laying up from that distance.
Yeah, you don't want to go past it and then give it the opportunity to roll down that slope.
Definitely not. James tapping in for his 5. Not what you're looking for on this hole, but considering he was out of position twice, you'll walk out of here with a par. Quote unquote par.
Quote unquote.
This hole, I mean, coming into the round, through 2 rounds, there were 20 eagles on this hole. And that's what made the hole the number 1 handicap on the course. For players that can't quite throw 450, this hole may play as a par 5, but for the pros, I would say not. But regardless of that, we've got 2 4s, 2 5s on the card. Chris is there at 23, and James is still smoking it at 25 under par. And on to hole 17. A very tricky, precarious tee shot here. What are you looking to do here?
Off the tee, I'm trying to throw a flex shot and just kind of stay away from that OB fence on the left side.
And almost just as bad as the OB fence line on the left is the woods on the right.
Mm-hmm.
You really just have no shot at the green from anywhere right. Those woods are very thick, and Lewis is throwing a nice shot. Maybe a bit shorter than he'd like, but maybe not as well. I mean, I'm not sure if he's trying to go big, but really just avoiding the left side and the fence line together is awesome, and that's really what you want. Somewhere around that 250 mark, really not much in the way from there to get up and down into the circle and give yourself a look at birdie. And that's really what you want your tee shot to look like. As long as it sits down, and it does, he's safe. The rule in the course was you get 1.5 meters relief from barbed wire, so allows players to get near it without having to worry about hitting their hand on barbed wire. And I think that should be a mandatory for all tournaments, that there should be extra relief from barbed wire. Nobody wants to get their hand ripped up.
No, it should be mandatory.
And Devan with a nice lefty shot here. Big lefty hyzer, getting himself maybe a bit tighter than he wants, but still in pretty good position. And that's a nice shot from Lewis. Yeah, that's not the approach that he wanted to have. It's really difficult. Once you get over there in the woods, the angle is so cut off, you really just have no way of even getting creative. James with his JK AVR, just a fast green, just a little bit long. He'll have a comfortable 25 feet or so for his birdie.
Mm-hmm.
And this is that PA3 that you threw on 6?
That's a PA4.
I just don't know.
I know. They all look the same.
Nice approach there. And oh no!
Almost puts it in.
Oh, Devan with a beautiful floater. Oh, man. I thought he had changed just the top of the basket. Awesome run there. And uncharacteristic. Unfortunately, he kind of had some things in the way there. Looks like he had to go with the straddle putt, which is not his comfortable putt.
No, he did not like the straddle. He said he warmed it up, and he waited 4 hours to finally use the straddle putt.
Hadn't had one all round. Came to it on 17, and a bit awkward. And elevator music there, but it's in there.
A little high.
Birdie is a great score in this hole. 5th hardest hole in the course. And James is kind of wishing he had that one back, but nothing to scoff about with the par there. Got a tight race here for who's going to be the 4th person on lead card between yourself and James. On to the hardest hole in the course, the last hole. Really tight, straight gap. A lot of players are electing to avoid that with a big high hyzer. And once you put yourself in position off the tee, it doesn't get much easier. You got an uphill, low ceiling, sloping, out of bounds green. This is a beast of a hole.
Mm-hmm. And there's the hyzer you were talking about.
And a huge lift. Now you're starting to see that wind that we're dealing with. With that hyzer, that is the one thing that you're really trying to avoid. That one clump of trees, and it's right where most people are throwing their hyzers. And just to take that out of the equation, Chris has decided to throw it perfectly down the middle, and you almost caught that clump too. The tricky part of this hole is you have to throw it much wider than you feel like you have to off the tee, and certainly have to get higher than that. James is going to be in a really bad spot. But one problem I saw a lot of people have on this tee shot, and that's not what you want either, is that their hyzers were way too tight, and they landed in that spot, that no man's zone there. And Devan had to go with a flick roller. That needs to sit down. And it looks like he has. There is out of bounds on the left side. And there's that rare forehand from James. You know he's not in a good spot if he's pulling that out twice in the same round. And here you can see that low ceiling that you have to navigate. Once you throw a good shot, you know, it's still there in front of you, but it's not that easy.
Yeah, the right side of the two gaps is more of a hyzer approach. The left side is a low ceiling, slight turn the whole way.
And you have that bunker in the middle as well you have to contend with. There's just so many different things that make this hole challenging. That's really what you're looking for. Maybe a bit shorter than you'd like, but to have a look for your birdie there is just that's always just a bonus in itself. Wow. Sidearm second shot to flick roller approach. Not the way James had drawn up the finish there. And Lewis a bit wide to skip down the hill. Fantastic approach there. He'll have that one for par. And that's nice. Get out of there without any stressful putt for 5.
Mm-hmm.
Not what he's looking for, but Devan taking his time there, taking the bag off, and really giving it a good run. And, okay, little layup there.
Yeah, I wish I could say it was a layup. There was a tailwind. I thought I put it up high enough, but obviously, as you saw it drop, I did not.
And Devan taking a double bogey 6. Was he out of bounds on his second shot?
No, there was quite a bit of brush and leaves over there. I think the roller just got caught up in them.
And James finishing an otherwise stellar round with a missed putt on 17 and a bogey on 18. Coming out 24 under, you are tied with him as well. But you're going to be on the lead card last round with a better second round. And Lewis Bitney staying in the mix there at 20 under, and Devan with a little bit of a rough round. As you see, Ricky off to a pretty decent start through 3 rounds. Only 9 strokes ahead of second place, Johnny McRae. It's really going to be a battle for second place today. Looks like Ricky's feeling pretty comfortable up top. Well, thanks for listening, guys. Thanks as always to Jomez Productions. Appreciate you tuning in. And stay tuned for the conclusion of the 2017 Jonesboro Open.